Clerk?
Roll call. Councilwoman Von Rudenberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Canestrino is absent. Councilman Battaglia.
Yeah.
Councilman Carroll.
Here.
Mayor LaBrus.
Here.
This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-6 et sec. Notice having been published according to law with a copy on file in the clerk's office and a copy posted on the bulletin board.
Would everybody please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We need a resolution to go into closed session.
Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session, please.
Offer.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilwoman Von Rudenberg.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Canestrino is absent. Councilman Battaglia. Councilman Carroll.
Aye.
And Mayor LaBrus.
Aye.
Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack deem it necessary to discuss certain actions under section 7B7 and 7B8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, which pertains to matters falling within attorney-client privilege, ongoing litigation, and personnel matters concerning the employment of a current or prospective public employee. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack is of the opinion that such circumstances may presently exist, and whereas the mayor and council wish to discuss the following issues: personnel matters, ongoing litigation, matters involving attorney-client privilege, matters involving the purchase, lease, or acquisition of real property, any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiations. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the city of Hackensack deem it necessary to exclude the public from this discussion. The outcome of the discussion will be disclosed within 90 days or at such time the interests of the city do not require confidentiality.
Thank you. Okay, we'll be back after, how long are we going in for? 1 hour. Back in. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome back. This is our first live meeting in about a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
And long time coming. It's good to see people, real people, instead of Zoomed. We welcome you tonight. I don't want to say it's a great event, but it's certainly eventful for us to be able to see you and have a live meeting again. So with that, Madam Clerk,
You need a motion to close the executive.
I need a motion to close the executive session, please.
Offer.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilwoman Von Rudenberg.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Canestrino is absent. Councilman Battaglia.
Aye.
Councilman Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor LaBrus.
Aye. Okay.
Good. Okay, first up is, it's going to be a presentation by Phil Swabinski and Frank Borelli in reference to the social media upgrades that the city is looking to put in place.
Okay, Phil, you're up. Is it working?
What? Hello, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and Chief, and everybody else for having us here. Just to introduce myself, I'm Phil Swabinski with Vision Media. We are the city's public relations firm. We also have Chris Marks from our staff here, and then, of course, Frank Borelli from the city's IT department. We'll be working hand in hand on this effort if if the city decides to move forward with it. So we're here tonight to talk about the city utilizing social media platforms to more effectively communicate with residents and other stakeholders. So we'll get right to the matter at hand. Why use social media, right? And there's a lot of good reasons for that. The first and foremost is what I just said. Hackensack, has a need to effectively communicate with residents, and as a communications professional, it's our job to recommend the most effective ways to do that. And things continue to change in the media landscape all the time. One of the challenges that we're dealing with, I'm sorry if that's a little small for anybody, but the traditional news media, the daily, weekly newspapers, the cable news outlets, they just don't cover city news and events as comprehensively as they used to, and to a point where it would be a reliable method for the city to get its information out anymore. At the same time, the city is already using some digital platforms, obviously the city website and some of the other services, but there's just not a critical mass of residents who are utilizing the website, utilizing things like Nixle and then the other ways that we have now to communicate. There are obviously other communications mediums, but they're expensive. Things like printed communications, commercials. they're effective, but they're not cheap, and they're definitely not free. And obviously, everything we do here, we want to try to minimize cost to taxpayers while maximizing our effectiveness. Social media has really become a pretty standard tool for other local governments. I can tell you from our own experience, we work with a number of municipalities, and all of them are really effectively using Facebook and Instagram and other tools to reach residents. It's really become a very essential piece of the toolkit to reach people and get information out there. And even right here in Hackensack, a pretty big majority of residents are active on Facebook and Instagram. I actually just checked a little earlier this evening, and about 44,000 Hackensack residents are active Facebook or Instagram users. That doesn't mean we would reach all of them immediately, but it means that we have the potential to reach them over the long term. So if we decide to move forward with this, how it would work? It would be a collaboration between Frank and his team and myself and our team. And Frank, do you want to speak to how that would work together?
Yeah, definitely. We right now manage the website. We manage the Nixles for the IT department. With that, we will work with Vision Media to post events, news, information on social media pages. So that'd be a Facebook and an Instagram page. But we will do that where we'll always be working with each other. So we never double post. We'll make sure there's a nice calendar of events of how we're going to do things, and we're going to make sure that if something is posted or something that's commented is inappropriate, it's dealt with fastly and appropriately. So that's kind of what our goal as a team would be. So.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. And I think the other benefit of that is that we'd be there to backstop each other. I mean, social media is a constant thing. It's always on, right? So there wouldn't be just one person responsible for it. It would be my team, Frank's team, and potentially other people involved in the city administration, depending on how we decide to manage it. But at least we would have a pretty good coverage already. We take a look at what this might look like on a pretty basic level. We create a mock-up of a City of Hackensack Facebook page. That's just kind of what the cover photo and the profile photo will look like. Obviously, the individual posts would be different news items, and we could talk now about what kind of content those posts would cover, because that's really the critical thing here, and it's where we have a lot of leeway to get creative and really get our message out. So we talk about what kind of content we would see on these pages. So kind of there's low-hanging fruit, right? So city announcements, news, the kind of things that we're already using our other platforms for now would definitely go on there, and we would be able to link to our city website. We'd be able to link to outside news stories. We'd be able to link to whatever other platforms we think are needed. City events and programming. Facebook is a great way to help get people aware of events. They have a Facebook events tool where people can RSVP, people can sign up, get more information, add it to their calendar. So that's something we could use for really any city event going forward. Something like spotlighting city employees. That's the kind of thing that you don't really get in the traditional media now, but there's a lot of great work being done here, and it'd be good to get the word out about it more. By the same token, spotlighting maybe local businesses, nonprofits, things going on in the community. Doing recaps of council meetings where obviously there's a lot going on, and the city's working hard to make these meetings more accessible, but not everybody is able to watch them or able to be here. So doing something to get information out about there. Updates on redevelopment, obviously, one of the biggest issues going on in the city. And then, publicizing some of those existing city services and tools that we would like more people to sign up for. If we create a large audience on Facebook and Instagram, we'd be able to push that to them. So, how does this benefit the city and the residents? We really want to keep people informed, right? I think that's an important function of city government. And really, the way that you can most effectively do that now in kind of modern communications is you meet people where they are, right? Like, people aren't necessarily going to hackensack.org, but they're already on Facebook and they're already on Instagram, so we can go meet them there. Increasing attendance at city events and usage of city tools, we kind of covered that already, but the more people know about things, the more people can enjoy the good things happening in the city. Raising awareness about city issues. I mean, You know, an example, like recently, the city has done incredible work on the Teterboro issue, but, having another way to engage residents, could have helped move that even faster potentially. But things like that, where we can get the message out to people. And enhancing civic pride, if we're able to highlight things going on in the city and the community and create a platform where we can connect with people, it can have a nice positive effect. Frank mentioned how the pages will be monitored. There would be a posted social media commenting policy. That's something that we're working on with the city attorney's office already, that would spell out exactly what kind of content would be allowed and not allowed on the page, and it would be very narrowly tailored. This is something that other government entities do, things like not using profanity, not using political speech. But that would be publicly posted. Like Frank mentioned, there would be constant monitoring and redundancy, so we know that there's always somebody available to update the pages. And then we're exploring the possibility of using a page archiving tool that would help with things like Oprah compliance and making sure that that everything on the page would be would be there if we ever need it.
Okay.
All right, and yeah, open up to any questions anybody has.
All right, council, staff?
I think it's when, I don't, oh, sorry. I think it's a win-win. I think most younger kids, we have so many things going on, whether it's rec sign-ups or events and concerts in the park. A lot of times when, we're around the city, people don't know about it because, like you said, they're not visiting the website, or they're, a lot of people aren't out seeing flyers, bless you. So I think it's a way to reach definitely teenagers, even, people in their 20s, 30s, everybody, to find out what's going on. So I think it's just a way to reach and let everybody know what's going on in the city and all the awesome things that are going on.
Okay, good.
The only question that I got, I think it's a good tool to use, but how much it will cost to run this program?
Yeah, that's something that, we have to work on. I think that there's really two aspects of it, right? There's the creating the content, which would be, based on our time and Frank's time, and I don't think would be a significant number. And then what I think the city should consider is adding some advertising money to it, which we can create a budget for that. But that would be a way to, rather than just kind of just building it very slowly, organically, we could immediately start reaching a lot more residents in Hackensack with our content and build our audience. So we'll be presenting, if you guys choose to move forward, we'll be presenting a detailed budget on, how much we think we should invest in advertising. And the great thing with digital advertising on social media is it's extremely flexible. Whether it's a few $100s, a few $1,000s, you're going to reach more people the more you spend, but it's not like there's a minimum where, you can only do it if you're willing to spend $100,000. It just doesn't work like that with us. So we'll definitely be digging deeper into that.
Jerry?
Yes. Once approved, how long will it take to get this up and running?
Well, not long. We can get the page up and running within a matter of days and start posting content. I think, once the pages are up and running, that's kind of one milestone. But then I think the more critical thing is just once we start building an audience, and that would be, sort of two ways of going about that. One is just sort of organic reach with, getting individuals, other city departments like the fire department and the police department have great Facebook presences now, getting them to share the page and get people to like it. And then, putting in some advertising dollars to grow the audience, hopefully quickly.
Thank you.
Well, my concern is the public comment issue. Elected officials are, we're the targets of keyboard cowboys, not just in Hackensack, but all over the country. But it goes even further. We signed on for that, so we kind of expect it to an extent, though I think it's wrong. But what about like our employees? If an employee is targeted or something like that, what about the ramifications to them? That's one of my concerns is, somebody starts picking on a fireman or a policeman or something, saying, with the typical name calling that they like to do. That's one of my concerns, and, that it really has to be monitored. There has to be a strict, this is for notification, good stuff for the city. It's not to beat up people, whether it's us or employees or other commenters. So that really, I know it's hard to monitor because you can't be on it 24/7, so we really, need to pay attention to that. So that has to really be worked out to stay within legal parameters with our attorneys, to make sure we're not inhibiting free speech, but this isn't about free speech. This is, about getting information out to our public.
Yeah, Mayor, absolutely. I think the key there is to have this very specific commenting policy where it's posted, people are aware
Right.
of it, people can refer to it and acting on it.
Right. Yeah, if it's derogatory, it shouldn't be on there. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. And if that inhibits some people's free speech, then I'm probably against it, because we get beat up enough to put yourselves out there in the public just so somebody can take shots at you because they're sitting at a keyboard at 10 o'clock at night and they feel like attacking you. It's kind of unfair to us, or an employee or anybody else for that matter. So, something we need to make sure, Steve and, the firm, and everybody.
24 hour delay.
Yeah. Yes.
But by the time you receive anything they put there.
Yep. That was my concern, so you guys got to work on that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. The second item is just the intro for a resolution. It's kind of a formality resolution. It's just to reference to the Community Development Committee. It's just appointing, or reappointing Susan and Ryan to represent us in the Bergen County Co-op Agreement.
Right.
It's where we get our CDBG grant and stuff from, so
Yep.
that's kind of a formality.
That's on for tonight, right?
Good. The third item is an ordinance to amend the no cash policy for all the city offices. We were having a $25 maximum accepting cash for permits or anything that, selling refreshments, such. And now we're going to decrease it to 10. They just found there was too much cash coming in. It was taking a lot of time to account for it, to get an escort to the bank, and it seemed to be, they gave it a shot, but it turned out to be too much money that we didn't really want to be handling on a daily basis.
Those areas, can they take credit cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they can use credit card as a service fee, or they can get a money order from the post office.
Okay.
That's 3. Number 4 is introduction of the ordinance to clarify and prevent dogs from running through the splash parks. We've had some incidents where dogs were running through the splash park, so we just needed to get an ordinance in place that prohibited that.
Chief, is there a way to look into if we have enough signage in the parks? I know a lot of times on the baseball fields and in areas where they shouldn't be running around, they are, and I'm not sure if there's proper signage on all the different
Okay.
areas.
I'll have them check on the signage.
Thank you.
I saw some discussion today between a citizen and City Hall about, because we have signs at certain parks, but no ordinance to back it.
Right.
So it kind of like
Harbor Park in
inhibit people.
particular, there's a sign that says
Yeah.
no dogs
Right,
in the park.
and I
Oh, so we don't have an ordinance then? I thought we did.
The only park that prohibits it is Powell Fly.
The Atlantic.
Atlantic.
I'm sorry,
Atlantic Street Park.
Yes, I'm sorry, Atlantic.
But even, I understand, where children are playing,
Yeah.
openly playing, and I'm not talking about dog attacks, I'm talking about health reasons.
Yeah.
Dogs using the fields to relieve themselves, and then kids playing on it is an
Right.
issue. So like Johnson Park, Fashini Park, stuff like that, we need to, dogs should always be leashed, number one.
Right.
They can't be running loose. People should have to pick up after their dog.
Most towns don't allow it on like the ball field.
Right, well, a lot of times they were on, and I think during COVID, no one was using the field,
Because
so
Stuyve
people were
Park,
just
they
letting
always
them
walk
go.
their dogs there, and most people pick up after their dogs, and that's fine, but again, there's kids, they play ball there.
Yeah.
So, but there were other issues today, they're worried about dogs attacking people and everything.
Yeah,
So,
right.
Something we need to discuss, I guess. Okay.
Next item is resolution just accepting a grant award in the sum of $275,130 from the state. It's for the police departments for their body worn cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, it's a non-matching grant, so it's going to be used to pay off some of the bills that they previously purchased and for new employees and replacing older equipment. Next on the list is the resolution for the city to start the rolling reassessment for tax years 22 to 25. There was a letter from Art, basically outlined what's involved, the fee structure, and the advantages of doing this rolling reassessment as we've done in the past.
Right.
Keeps the, assessments at a more current market value, so.
Just for the public's knowledge, we started doing assessment. When we got hit with all those tax appeals that we found out what other municipalities were doing to stop it is they do a rolling assessment every year or two to make sure people's property values were kept up at 100%, so that stopped the appeal process. And through the years, it's been costly to do it, but it saved us a tremendous amount of money, way above and beyond what the cost of it was. So we're going to be starting it up again in a year from now and do it for 3 more years.
Yeah, it'll be for the 22 tax year, but actually we'll start the reassessments in the fall of this year.
Okay?
If it all
They'll be
goes-
out there. They'll be out there
Correct.
coming to your home.
Yes. The next item is a amendment to the ordinance in reference to piercings and tattoos, to allow tattoo shops, I should say, and developing a fee, or using the fee of $200 for the, I guess it's considered a license for these places. And there's also some language about how far apart they can't, the distance between.
There's a restriction on any place in town. There's no zoning involved in that. So they can put one on Main Street.
Yes, as far as I understand, yes. Zoning had weighed in, and I didn't see any feedback from them. Did you, Allison? No.
1,500 feet apart.
Mhm.
Okay, item number 8 is, and I'm going to ask Susan to just give a brief explanation on this. This is a resolution to update the Federal Highway Project Manual in reference to the TAP grant.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Chief, and the public. So the city of Hackensack was awarded a $1 million Transportation Alternative Program grant, the TAP grant, by the Federal Highway Authority, FHWA, which is administered by the New Jersey Department of Transportation. One of the requirements from the FHWA is that the city update their 2016 Policy and Procedure Manual. This is a black and white version. The update was required to ensure that the city understood the administration of the federally funded project in accordance with the FHWA's current requirements. So we worked hard to get this up to date. The things that we updated included the administration, the org chart, the process for the advertisement to bid for both the actual construction as well as the request for proposal for construction administration and inspection services by an engineering consulting firm. What's also included is source documentation, construction oversight, Buy America certification, disadvantaged business enterprises and trainee compliance, as well as all the paperwork that's required as you construct the job. That's pretty much the overview. This is just an updated version, and we're looking for a resolution to accept the updated version.
Okay. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the cannabis ordinance. And the discussion was setting up the ordinance, how many facilities will be allowed and licensing fees and such. And I believe the current licensing fee proposed is a yearly $15,000 licensing fee for cannabis businesses in town. There's also a limit on them. I believe it's 1 retailer and 1 manufacturer is what the city.
Excuse me if I may correct you.
Yeah, please do.
Cultivation.
Cultivation.
Because there is processing,
Cultivator.
which is a separate
So,
license.
and actually, if you don't mind, I just wanted to make everyone aware that there have been some slight changes from the introduced ordinance, just to clean up some language to make sure it was consistent within the ordinance and with the state statute as far as definitions go. And we'll address that more when the ordinance is up for discussion and public hearing.
Mhm.
But also, there's a second ordinance that's being introduced on first reading tonight that's establishing the taxes and the licensing structure. And that is what the manager was referring to.
Thank you for
Good.
The other item that was, I'll just read this statement. In response to several phone calls by residents in the area of Prospect and Beach, the city is going to pull Resolution 265-21 for tonight's meeting and reconsider the addition of 2-hour time parking signs in this area. I'd like to gather additional information from the residents to understand their point of view. Further discussions will take place at the August 16th council meeting. So we still want to hear from the public on this.
Absolutely.
Hit the pause button for a minute and get everybody's concerns so we can
And this
make
is a perfect example where a social media page like Facebook would come in tremendously handy to let us know people's ideas and feelings. Gives us some type of system to weigh things out on what the public's feeling.
Right.
But absolutely.
That's all I had.
Okay. With that, we need a motion to open to the public, please.
Offer.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilwoman Von Rudenberg.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Canestrino is absent. Councilman Battaglia.
Aye.
Councilman Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor LaBrus.
Aye. With that, anybody from the public who would like to speak, please come forward. You will have 3 minutes. If you notice, we have a new clock right here by the clerk, and we're going to adhere strictly to the 3 minutes. We've had some complaints and issues about me allowing people to go over. I kind of used to like to give people a leeway, but we're going to keep everybody to 3 minutes. We will not interrupt you while you're talking unless it's for a good reason, and your question can be answered afterwards. Sir, how are you? No with the clock. All right.
There it goes. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to see that the parking ordinance has been moved to next month's meeting. That was actually what I was going to make some comments about. But I may as well make them tonight, because I actually had 2 items. The first item is about the, I'd like to talk about having the time parking on Beach Street. I don't understand why the push to have time parking on this street and Prospect Avenue when there are really no businesses or restaurants that we would be timing for. These streets are primarily residential, and changing these rules from what they are today could severely impact people who need these parking spaces because they don't have assigned parking spaces within the garages of their buildings. I have a proposal. Provide a free parking permit to tax-paying residents on Beach Street or Prospect Avenue so that they would be beyond that rule of the time parking. That's a proposal for time parking, and if they were parking, they wouldn't be ticketed for exceeding the 2-hour time limit. So that's my comment about those 2 streets. My second item, and I do congratulate the council for getting the flight path changed. However, I'd like us to be able to get some statistics from the FAA to see what the percentage of flights are that are actually using this new flight path. As a resident of 301 Beach Street, I can tell you from my terrace or from the pool, I think it's 0% are using the new flight path. Problem is, it was made voluntary, and I don't think, and even though the pilots have all been trained and know about this new flight path, it doesn't seem that anyone seems to be using it. So that's a comment that I wanted to bring to tonight's session because it went into effect July 1st. And
Mr. Goodman, I agree with you 100%. So, are you finished?
I am done.
All right, I'll try to answer as
Thank you for
best I
your-
can. First, I'll
for the
answer the resident sticker parking. And I believe if you have a resident sticker, we do charge $5, and would be hard to do it for free because we've been charging for way before this council came in, the $5 fee was in place. If you have a resident parking sticker, you can park more than 2 hours, correct?
There's, one of the reasons this got pulled because there's some confusion and maybe some miscommunication as far as what areas are eligible to get resident parking stickers. It's not every resident in the city is
Right.
eligible to get a resident parking sticker. It has to be in designated areas. So
Right.
that's one of the areas that I wanted to kind of do a little more investigating on so we could speak, with some knowledge of it.
Right.
It's not the whole entire city, you know what I'm saying?
Just on in this area.
But one of the issues we are having, that I know we're having, because it happens, we have hospital workers parking there all day, so they're not residents. So they're taking up spots, which could be used by residents. That's one of the main reasons. Same thing with people using the buses. all right? So people come, they park on Prospect, they get on a bus, their car sits there all day. A resident of Hackensack doesn't get to use a spot. That's why with the $5 permit, if we do that in a certain area, that person can now park there all day if he has his permit, all right? And the 2-hour limit stops the, what do you call it, the bus users?
Commuters.
And the commuters and the hospital employees from doing it. We've been doing this for the hospital employees, especially down on the other side of Essex Street, down by the Hillers area, because they park there all the time, and they've had to institute 2-hour parking there, and it's worked pretty well. It's stopped a lot of it. So that was the reasoning and thinking behind it. So that's probably where we're trying to head with that. We understand everybody's concerns. What we have to figure out is who's getting a sticker and who's not.
Correct.
So, that's, but we're not looking to, we're actually looking to make parking for our residents and not, let somebody who's taking a bus, driving from another town, let them get dropped off or park somewhere else.
And yeah, and I'm under the understanding that the condo and co-op board recommended something like this. They were
There's been
supportive.
discussion, I don't know if there was discussion, well, Ms. Jankowski is here, so I don't know if that was through the condo board, but we've been dealing with this issue for a long, long, long time, not just that area, throughout the city, where we find out commuters are parking all day, taking away from people who can't park in front of their own homes, especially in residential areas. You live in a residential area, but it's apartments and condos and co-ops. A lot of these areas are people's houses where they can't even park in front of their own house ever, because there's always cars parked there. So this is what we're trying to quell and stop. So that's our goal. But nothing's perfect. Sometimes it takes a few meetings to work it out and get everybody in agreement. That's why we have these great meetings.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Is there
you.
a way that can we reach out to an agency at the FAA to find out what the status?
Oh, let me speak to that real quick, if I
I have
may.
it
You
on
want to
the
speak
list.
to it? Go ahead.
I thought on my list to follow up on it. That's
All right, we're gonna follow up on that.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to speak? Yes, ma'am?
Good evening, welcome back.
How are you? Thank you.
My name is Sophia King, and my husband and I are owners and residents at the Beechwood condominium at the corner of Prospect and Beach Street.
Mhm.
As a resident of the neighborhood for 24 years, I ask you to reconsider the idea to limit the parking on Prospect Avenue. The time limit would be a hardship and disservice to the area residents, your constituents, as well as our visitors, service providers in our homes, and the general public. I do not know what the benefit is of adding any restriction to the current parking guidelines. The length of Prospect Avenue is a residential neighborhood with the exception of the hospital and 200 buildings which are closer to State Street. There is a need for parking for the residents' use that is only further reinforced by the presence of the medical center, which brings more visitors to the area with every expansion. In fact, rather than impose a 2-hour limit on parking in my immediate neighborhood, may I be so bold as to implore you to reinstate the street parking that once existed in front of Beechwood on the north side of our entrance prior to the installation of the traffic light at Prospect and Beach. Unfortunately, my building does not have sufficient parking to provide space for resident guests, and so we're dependent on street parking. When my mother, brother, uncles, aunts, cousins, and friends come over for Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter or any other gathering at my place, they have parked on the street. How long are your family gatherings? 30 minutes? 60 minutes? I would like my guests to stay for as long as they want to stay, which is always more than 2 hours. I would also like to do so without them having to get up and find a new spot on the street before a 2-hour time limit under threat of a ticket or tow. The suggested restriction is also an added burden on senior citizens, persons with mobility issues, and would be exacerbated in inclement weather or after a snowfall when parking is particularly tight. Over the years, I have had painters, electricians, plumbers, appliance service, and assorted other service providers in my home who have been challenged by the limited parking availability. But I have been fortunate enough to keep my home operable. I wish these jobs only took 2 hours, but oftentimes they do not. Again, a time limit would be a hardship and disservice to the area residents and their constituents. Please continue to keep moving Hackensack forward and building the brighter future as you have pledged to do, and do not impose this hardship on me or my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. I can address one or two issues there, and they're great issues because it came up in a recent thing about parking, which wasn't that long ago in a different area of town, about people coming to visit, and I agree with you. Your family should be able to spend all day with you if they want to. But with a simple call to the police department ahead of time that I'm having a guest, and if you just how did they give a
Give the
license?
license
They
plate.
gave a license plate number, and then they were protected, they could park there all day. I know it's a little bit of an inconvenience to call, but it guarantees them that they're not going to be ticketed. So,
That was specifically Anderson and Hamilton?
that was Anderson Hamilton, that was just done
That was
several
just
months
recently
ago.
done, yeah.
So that's one way we were able to work around that.
In other
so
words,
that-
if that were to be imposed in your area, that option would be available for you.
It's very similar to like Maywood, which doesn't have overnight parking, but in certain circumstances, it's an emergency. You're allowed to call ahead of time, say, I have somebody from out of town, I only have one car driveway, they're gonna be on the street, and they allow it.
Then it's in a gas service provider, if I think they're.
So it could be a service, it could be,
Stay there
yes,
for 2
yes.
hours and
You can
then-
call ahead of time, say, I have a guy coming, a painter is gonna be here painting my apartment all day, or my condo. So we can work around that, that's not a problem. All right, but again, our goal is to establish parking for residents, not to take it away. The problem is, other people are taking your parking away. A lot of people are taking your parking away, believe me. Most of the cars, we have done studies, traffic studies, and most of the cars parked in that area are not Hackensack residents. So,
I understand the principle, but I almost would prefer the open market where everyone has a chance rather than having someone have to
Right.
go through that hardship of, sending my senior citizen, relatives out to go move their car.
well, they wouldn't have to move their car if you
Oh,
knew
yeah,
they
that
were
won't
coming.
actually work, that was the.
Yeah.
That was the provision that was put in the last
Yeah.
ordinance for.
We're just trying to create more, because we know there's a parking need there for residents, we're trying to recreate that, basically.
What about my suggestion to add bathroom parking on each street as non prospect?
That would have to look at, traffic would have to do a
I wrote
study
it
on
down,
that.
I'll talk to traffic and see what
Yeah.
they're,
I remember, that was about 10 years ago.
That was done as part of a traffic study for the traffic signal on Beach and Prospect, whether they could back off of that a little bit, that's gonna be up to the traffic division, that's something they handle.
Yeah, I understood that they thought at the time because the stop sign was there and everyone kept on going through the stop because
Mhm.
they couldn't see it. But now there's a
Right.
light there.
Right.
So it's a little bit different.
We will, the manager will definitely talk to
Yep.
traffic.
But I think that might actually help because if people are coming in and out of
Mhm.
parking spots, they actually would probably slow down rather than.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane, I'm already breaking my rules, I'm not supposed to be going back and forth doing it, so.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Annette Jankowski, Prospect Avenue, Condo Co-op Advisory Board. I just wanted to clarify that initially, about a year and a half ago, when we wrote to Ted Ehrenberg about the cars, it was about the illegal parking, people that were parking in the illegal spaces for hours and hours, which was obviously very hazardous to anyone trying to get in and out of the driveways and whatever, and to pedestrians.
Okay.
So it was all about, and they're still doing it, people parking in the bus stops, people parking where the lines and the signs clearly state no parking, and they're parking. Very, very blatant about it. That was the issue.
Is it still happening a lot?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Still happening a lot?
Oh, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And my suggestion at the time was start ticketing the illegal cars, and the word will get around. I don't know if that was done, to be honest, but
I'm told by the police department that traffic routinely patrols Prospect Avenue specifically looking for you to
I
park.
don't see them, to be honest with you. And I have an apartment facing the front of the building, so I'm not seeing it. Could be, but it's at the point now where, I mean, when I left this evening, they were just blatantly parked in the no parking areas. And it's just, it's a danger. It really is to everyone.
And not to put the burden on you, but if you have the desire to notify the police desk of illegally parked cars that are present at the moment, they will certainly.
Just call?
Yes, they'll certainly
I don't
respond.
have a problem with that. Because as you know, Prospect's gotten very, very busy over the years, and you add on a delivery truck or whatever,
Yep.
you have chaos on that street. So, but it was never an issue of resident parking, it was an issue of the illegal parking. So,
I was led to believe that you were
Yeah.
in favor, that the condo board was
Yeah.
in favor of the 2-hour limits.
not really, we're in favor of it if it will help the residents of the building, but,
Right, and that's
or
what we.
if it will help.
That's what we assume the intention
If it will,
was, yes.
let me put it this way, if it will deter people that shouldn't be parking there to park there,
Right.
Because the other,
Well, it obviously would deter people that are commuting because they can't park there, they have only 2 hours.
plus at 385 Prospect, the medical building, that's filled right now. So what I'm hearing from people is that there is not enough parking in that building for the patients. So they're spilling over into the illegal parking spaces also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you for the
Jankowski.
clarification.
Thank you.
Next person, please. Good evening.
My name is Nancy Weimer. I live at 301 Beach Street. We had heard not just that there would be timed parking, but that there would be a beginning of two-sided parking on Beach Street. That's what I was told by our property manager, and that's a concern. I would be anybody coming out of the garage parking area, I'm short. I can't always see past the car that's frankly parked in the yellow lines where they shouldn't be, and sometimes they're Uber people. They're not, regular.
Yeah, there's a good,
So
right.
you have to pull out, and if there's parking on the opposite side of the street, as well as on the current side going down, there's not enough room. And then when school starts, with parents dropping their kids off and whatnot, and school buses, and they just stream on in. I mean, just this morning, somebody was coming up, I had to pull out, I would say easily a foot past the car so I could see where the hell I was going, excuse my language. And I got, I was like this close to getting clipped, and the guy beeped at me, and I was like, I can't see. So 2 things that I'm asking for. If you're thinking of both sides of the street parking on Beach, forget about it. Seriously.
Right.
Please.
It's news to me, so I'm not aware of it.
I can address that. That was written on one of the documents that it
Yes.
was proposed, and that was written in error. The north side of Beach, from Second to Prospect, is no parking anywhere.
It's staying.
And that is the intent, to keep it, to remain that way.
Oh, thank God.
So whoever wrote the notice, it was just an error that they wrote both sides of the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing about the timed parking, I would just be concerned if you're going to do it for overnight, maybe if you did timed parking between, 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. or something like that. What you don't want is people having to run out every 2 hours and try to move their car at, 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever.
It was going to be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that wasn't in any of the
Yeah.
information we got either. Sorry.
Okay, no
And
problem.
just to reiterate what Ira was saying, I don't know what the heck they're doing with the planes to Teterboro, but I can tell you that I can set my watch 20 minutes after every hour, on the hour, there's a frickin' plane.
I'm in the flight path also. Believe me, I hear you loud and clear.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
John, welcome back. It's been
Welcome
a
back.
long time.
Year and a half, Rich.
A year and a half at least.
Yeah, long time. Yep.
Absolutely incredible. All right, look, I'm just walking in on this conversation, really. I'm Rich Serbo, Hackensack, New Jersey, Spring Valley Avenue, and we'll talk about Spring Valley Avenue at some other time. But I'm just walking in on this. Hackensack always had a parking problem, always, okay? And the more cars that are coming into the city, it's gonna get worse. But regulating it, I guess, is necessary time-wise, but this whole thing with the fees, the meters, is killing this town. Those fees don't bring in that much. The metered parking doesn't bring in that much. You check out your figures. Where's here he is. Check out our figures on the
I'm glad he's here.
the metered parking. You're not bringing in that much dough on that. So regulate it some other way. Charge a nickel, okay? Or have more parking garages, have free lots, and get this under control. This town has always had a parking problem. It's gonna get worse. You can see it coming. It's gonna be massive, okay? So we'll talk later during the city meeting, all right?
Thank you, sir.
Here,
Anyone else from the public? I have a gentleman right behind.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, thank you. My name is Ray McIntyre. I also live at Prospect, on Prospect, 100 Prospect Avenue, the Beechwood. And I have to agree with many of the folks here. Parking's a nightmare. It really is a bit of a challenge. I'm fortunate enough to have a parking space, but I have family that comes over, so it's a little disruptive. What really concerns me is the hospital expansion. Now, you guys know this as well as anybody. That expansion, that's great for the city of Hackensack, great, bully. Unfortunately, it freaks me out as to where those folks are going to be going. I'm concerned about what's going to happen with traffic. Prospect Avenue is chaotic already with some of the traffic on there. Now, I'm not to say that I'm the world's perfect driver. I won't say that. I wouldn't do that to you guys. But I will say that I do see a lot of crazy things. Parking is just one part of it. So I would like to see something addressed. I don't know if the 2-hour parking limit is the answer, but maybe some kind of permit or parking sticker, something to help us out. Just some kind of happy medium.
Well, that's exactly what we're looking at.
Yes, perfect. I appreciate that. I just wanted to voice that. Second, regarding the FAA flight pattern, yeah, it's a nightmare. I really can't set my watch to those guys. And I'm a heavy sleeper. They're just terrible. Can I offer a comment on that whole website?
Sure, absolutely. You're 3 minutes. Talk about whatever you want to.
Well, I'm down to half. Okay, but you guys, I see a lot of billboards about the SAC and, positioning Hackensack as this go-to kind of place.
Right.
And I love that. That's great. I love the new buildings, love all the stuff you guys are doing. But we need a little bit more of a heavier social media presence.
Right.
The website, that's a step in the right direction, but you're like 8 steps behind what real, other. Okay, so you guys
We're
are getting
trying to
my
catch
gist
up.
here.
And the SAC stuff is actually the Main Street Alliances. That's their branding because they're working Main Street.
Copy that.
When you see that stuff, that's, even though they work in conjunction with the city, they do that on their own, out of their own funding.
Got it.
But that's not taxpayer money per se. But no, we're trying to move forward. One of our hesitations, is, and I'm sure you heard me talk, is if you see the way what happens to us like during an election.
Yes.
On Facebook and stuff,
Yes.
and it's brutal.
Yes.
It's really being subjected to stuff, you're like, gee, you want to get information out there, but I'm going to have some guy calling me and my family names, for absolutely no reason. So we're very hesitant about it, and we've seen it, doesn't happen in every town, but it happens in this town.
Yes, and I can appreciate that. I know I'm running at 15 seconds, but maybe we can take that as an opportunity to have more of a dialogue with the citizens of this town. Granted,
True.
I know it's not easy, and I don't envy you guys. I'm sure you're the target, and it's, what did you call it? Cowboy clicker?
Oh, keyboard cowboys.
Thank you. But, on behalf of those folks, I apologize. But it would be a good avenue to have more of a dialogue with your citizens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it. Next person in the public?
Good evening. Celso King, Hackensack.
Sir?
How's it going?
Good, you?
I'm Mr.
Stephanie,
King.
how's it going? And Coach, congratulations. Thank you. Good to see you. Real quick, I want to speak about sort of the rec department and the sports complex. First of all, I am totally in favor for that. I'm a father of four young, 2 middle school, 2 elementary school. I think this is going to be an excellent opportunity for our kids. Mayor, I know you've always been involved in sports, because even when I was in high school, I think you came to even some of our games. So I think that is important. That's also important. As these new buildings come in, families are going to come in, and they're going to, first thing they see is how our parks, what do we offer for their kids. And this sport complex, I think, is good, but however, one of the things you have to keep in mind, we have to make sure it is for multi-sports. Like my kids run indoor track for the rec department, or quote unquote rec. We have to travel to New York.
Right.
We go to Staten Island. We go to Connecticut. We've gone to even some. And if Hackensack were to build something like that, I guarantee you, you will be booked throughout the state of New Jersey during the winter season just for indoor track. So that's one thing. So please keep that in mind. And also, we have to keep in mind about our female sports. There is, before we get to an equity issue, especially in the younger level, like for example, we need to include for the rec volleyball for females during the fall season. So then that way it can expand to everyone, not just the sports that we have for like football and soccer, which is boys and girls, but start including some new sports. And second of all, I think we need to really, really, really reorganize our rec program and make it under one umbrella. Right now, I'm doing baseball. I was thrown in for baseball, even during the summer, for my Little League son and everything. It's fine. But how it was done in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, it's totally different on what we need to go, what we're doing today and how things have changed. I think that all the rec needs to be under one umbrella, one stop and shop. Because even now, as I travel with baseball, we go to different towns, and I'll give you an example. North Bergen, they have their own rec busing. They bus their kids to different games during the summertime. Union City buses kids. And I always like to compare ourselves. I think we're better than those towns, way better, academically, school-wise, but they're offering a lot more for their citizens. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind. And also, I think if we're under the umbrella of all sports that offer through the rec, I think cost goes down. Because right now, we are pricing a lot of our families out of it. I have 4 kids. So if a family that, by all means, me and my wife are better off than a lot of people, especially during COVID, but a lot of people are being priced out. I don't think that's something that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Celso. But I'll speak to that very quickly, and if Jerry and Steffi want to speak to it also, but Jerry and Steffi are going to be heading up a whole new revamp of recreation in the city of Hackensack. Mr. Carroll and myself were involved in sports in Hackensack going way back into the 80s, probably you a little earlier maybe.
Yeah.
And we know what the city had and what it was doing and capable of and what we are capable of, and we want to get back there. And, the whole umbrella thing, I'd say he must have been sneaking into our meetings and, because we were just talking about it.
Yeah.
But yes, we're probably going to put everybody under the same umbrella. And one of the reasons that wasn't done is because a lot of the fundraising is done individually by each sport. So, certain sports that raise a lot of money certainly didn't want to just have their money taken by another sport. So, but that's going to be, they're still going to have control of their own money, but it'll be managed by our CFO in trust funds, so that will be maintained. Steffi and Jerry, any comment?
Yeah, if I could just, I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. King. I know we've had discussions, and I have 3 kids in many different sports as well, and I see you at the games. And one of our things is our fields absolutely have to be improved, but one of the through research and learning the process, one of the barriers we ran into where when you take certain grants, if you're not running your rec programs, you're considered an outside organization. So do we want to charge our outside organizations to use our fields? That's a battle, and that's one of the reasons that myself and Mr. Carroll we're so happy to work together on the rec board and try to figure these things out, because we want turf fields, we want lights for our kids, we want like I go to many different fields, Mount Olive, North Bergen, they all have these beautiful facilities, and you see these other towns, their kids are indoors, batting practices, doing workouts in the winter. We don't have that, and like yourself, myself and my husband are fortunate enough to be able to bring our children to different things and pay for these things, but a lot of families aren't. So we could offer that from the town, low fees or no fees for these children to, work and get better year round. That's the thing that we're competing with other towns that they have and we don't. So we're absolutely working together to figure this out and try, that's our number one goal, I would say, myself and Mr. Carroll, is really to figure out. And I know our council supports us, and with the dome that Councilman Battaglia is, trying to get established and going, I think all these improvements are going to really help our programs for our kids. So, and I appreciate the help, anything that you guys want to do. Thank you.
Coach?
Exactly what Stephanie stated. One of the first charges I received from the mayor was the rec program, and Stephanie and I have met, and we're going to continue meeting, and we're going to have something hopefully soon to present. So I do hear what's going on. I coached in this town for 30 years, and I've seen it all. I like to get it back to the glory days.
And one of the things I noticed is with our recreation board is years ago when I was involved, all the coaches went to rec meetings, all the coaches, and they were heard, and that's lacking today. That's going to change.
Yeah,
that will
absolutely.
change. So,
Yeah.
thank you, sir. Next person, please. How are you? Welcome.
I apologize, I was late, so I missed the beginning of the meeting.
This is actually the beginning of the end of the first meeting. We still haven't even started. Second meeting yet. Go ahead.
My name is Linda Steele.
Mhm.
I'm the president of Beechwood Heights Condo Sys. And I just wanted to give you a little background about our building, because we're very, very, very concerned about parking. So our building sits on the corner of Prospect and Beach.
Mhm.
It's a pre-war building. I don't know the exact year. It was built probably in the 30s. And when it was built, it's not like the other new high-rises along Prospect that have adequate parking. We've never had adequate parking. There's 72 units, and we have 65 spaces. We allocate 1 space per unit. So coupled with not having enough spaces, the people that have 2 cars in their family, which is 14 more cars, park on the street. I'm just very, very concerned because we're not going to have enough parking space.
But just before you go, we pulled that ordinance, or that introduction, or that resolution tonight, that discussion. And one of the reasons, there's been some miscommunication and misunderstanding. One of the reasons we're moving forward is because of the lack of parking for residents in Hackensack. We're dealing with hospital workers parking all over our streets and commuters parking all over our streets all day long. So the 2-hour rule applies to them, but it would not apply to residents. We've done this throughout the city before. It's been quite successful, especially with the hospital workers over on the hill, to stop them from, because every hospital worker has an assigned parking space. I work there, I know. Every single person that works in a hospital has an assigned parking space, but a lot of them don't want to wait for the buses down at the parking garage. They'll look for a local spot. And then the commuters park. Like I said before, we have traffic people out there that track, and most of the people, a lot of the people parking on Prospect and American Legion in those areas are not Hackensack residents, a lot of them. So they're taking our spots. So our goal is to get those spots back. They have to, the hospital workers should be parking in the garages that they have, and commuters should be dropped off. They shouldn't be parking on our streets all day. So that's our goal. So with the 2-hour parking, what happens is you would get as a resident, you apply for a parking sticker. It's a $5 charge per year, that's it. We have to charge that because it's been in an ordinance for probably 20 years. We're certainly not making money off of parking stickers, but that was, I don't know who decided to do it, but that's what they charge. And that gives you the opportunity to park there. Also, one woman brought up an issue which we had addressed in an earlier area of town where we were dealing with this, is if you have family coming to visit, they should be able to stay more than 2 hours, all right? And so what they do is you just call ahead of time when you have somebody visiting, and you get their license number, and then they're protected, they can park there. Same thing with if you have a worker coming to your unit. So that's where we're heading with this, but it's certainly not to take parking away, it's to add parking, all right?
So, as a resident, can you park on any local street?
Well, yeah,
Park like up on Summit or Overlook?
Well,
or-
if you're a resident of your area, and you go to an area that has a 2-hour limit, I don't think that carries over. No, that doesn't carry, it's related to around your area. In other words, you couldn't go over to the other side by Hiller School and park for 6 hours.
Right, but you could park in the whole area.
Yeah,
like
there'll be a
us
designated area, and that all has to be decided, and who's eligible and who's not, and, how we're gonna work that out.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I hope this works through a mask. My name's Regina Nepshy. I live at the Beechwood as well, and I'm very happy to hear about the permit because that just sort of solves a lot of the problems. But I do want to second what Ophelia King said about when we had a stop sign, a lot of parking was whittled away over the years, and so it would be nice to see some of that come back. You said you would look into the traffic report on that.
We're gonna look into that and see if it's feasible.
I don't know that this is the right place to address this, but I don't see a whole lot of police presence with second what Ray said about increased traffic with the hospital. Every night, there is somebody who goes by the building and revs, whether it's their motorcycle or their hot car, and it occurs to me that it might be somebody who's harassing somebody because it's so intentional that it might be a guy whose girlfriend is in the building or something like that. And this happens pretty regularly, like the last 2 months. So I'm just concerned that that person's not getting pulled over and they're not getting stopped.
Is it a normal time of day or night?
It's at night, it's late, it's usually like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it just feels very intentional because it's right when they get in front of our building. It could be across the street or my building, 100 or 101. But the person intentionally revs and then just spiels out. So I think it's somebody probably trying to harass it's probably a guy harassing a woman.
Could be a woman harassing a guy.
I'm gonna go with the odds.
What's up with that?
Do you have a description by chance of the car?
I'll take
If
a
you-
look
yeah,
at it. I'll
just,
call
yeah,
the
yeah.
police. But it's usually so fast and they're
Yeah.
early time.
Okay.
Oh, just as far as the Teterboro, but it's not just the frequency and the flight path, but it's how late it goes. I mean, sometimes it's 12:30, 1 o'clock. I understand there's a lot of storms, so they might get the flights in late, but it just seems like it's really heavily weighted at that time. 12 o'clock at night. That seems excessive to me for, how traffic going that late in the evening. So that's all I got to say.
Okay.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next, please.
Hello.
Hi.
I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
These mufflers, what's going on with these small cars and these enhanced mufflers? Now landscaping trucks also have them. And the speeding on Summit Avenue is scary. There was a car yesterday past my daughter's house. I was babysitting. The car went so fast, I couldn't get the color of it. I swear to God. It's like from Coles to, what I can hear is Spring Valley.
Okay.
Those, I think, are, a couple of years ago, that girl was thrown from the car on Route 4, hit the building, right, the restaurant.
Right.
It's just getting worse, like, it seems like it's not being addressed.
Is it any particular time of day?
No. It really isn't.
It's a lot of different cars, D, or just,
No, they're mostly small.
right? No, I'm saying it's
cars.
not one or two or three in particular.
No,
It's-
but there's also the landscaping trucks now, the newer ones. It's crazy, it's very scary. Now, isn't there an ordinance, no commercial landscaping on a Sunday?
I don't believe so.
I would say yes.
When we bought the house, that was the rule,
Not so
but that was
sure.
40 years
It
ago.
might be prohibited by blue laws, the county laws.
Double check on that, because we
Okay.
went back and forth on that a while
Also,
ago.
landscaping trucks, with the big trailers, and aren't they supposed to have their name on it?
Commercial truck has to have a name and a license, and a phone number on
I'm
it.
not the only one in town that sees all this. I don't
Okay.
want to see it all, but
And we deal with that all the
unfortunately-
time with illegal trucks parked, landscapers and stuff like that. But
But just put your name on the truck.
it's a
But
commercial
you know
vehicle,
what?
it's supposed to have a name on it.
Somebody worked for the city that pulled me over because I took a kitty toy out of a pile on rubbish night,
Right.
and told me I couldn't take it or he could ticket me. Come on. Let's
That's probably Dean.
prioritize here. Put the damn kitty toy back, for goodness sakes.
Really?
But, okay. Thank you.
He's gonna look into
Yeah.
it.
Look into
Thank
some
you.
of these things.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Before someone gets killed.
Yeah.
Next person, please.
Good evening. I'd like to address the situation over on Zabriskie Street. Okay, we have a new development, the Jefferson.
Can I just ask your name, please?
Robert Brander,
Robert.
E-R-A-N, B as in David, E-R.
Thank you.
Okay, at this present time, Zabriskie Street has increased in traffic. We have a lot of buses when Jefferson gets shut down. And then you have all these hot rodders come through, and it's just relentless. And it goes to like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Plus the fact you're in a conjunction with Johnson, the beginning of Kinderkarmach and Zabriskie. Is it possible to put in speed tables and also make Zabriskie a one-way street?
That would be an issue for traffic division to look at, so the chief will look, the interim manager will look at that for the one-way. I'm going to ask that he look into us getting at least the speeding trailer over there, if it's an issue.
And specifically on Zabriskie, though?
Because I live on Zabriskie, I notice it.
You're saying most of the speeding takes place, a lot of it takes place on Kinderkarmach, Johnson Avenue, down that stretch?
It comes down because it's a feeder route into Kinderkarmach, and you have signs going to River Edge, Bergenfield, so people use it. And also you have buses coming down. And of course, when you have Jefferson shut down, they have no other way to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
What direction, one-way direction, are you referring to?
Preferably westerly.
One
So
way,
when you come off
westbound only?
Kinderkarmach, just go west.
Okay.
How many signs do we have? How many of those speeding signs in the city?
Signs.
I'll pass it along to traffic, and they'll do an evaluation of it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. We have to start our second meeting soon, so are these your comments referring to, come on up, something that we've been discussing already, or is it, are you here for the first or second meeting? I guess that's what I should be asking you.
I've never been to one of these meetings.
Okay, good answer.
Kimberly King.
Okay,
I'm sort of reiterating what my husband said, but
Okay.
there's something new. I can't stress that we don't have enough sports options for girls for the rec program. Just having spoken to the coaches that are starting their sports programs, for many of our girls, this is the first time that they're playing a sport at the freshman level. And that just speaks to what we offer the girls in Hackensack regarding what we provide in our rec program. So that is a serious problem. Additionally, I can't stress to you that the sports complex really has to have a track. Our track program is huge.
wrote it down.
We regularly have 100+ kids come out. We regularly send kids to college on track scholarships. So again, I can't stress that it needs to have that. Now, something new is, I believe, some parks are going to be renovated. I hope that those parks include equipment that is inclusive of children with special needs, because that's something that Hackensack doesn't have right now. And while my kids have outgrown much of the play equipment, I don't think Hackensack has one playground that can accommodate children with special needs. And all over Bergen County, you have these beautiful parks with beautiful modern equipment, which Hackensack doesn't have, and it's equipment that is not inclusive. And the last thing is, we have so much development in Hackensack with these monstrosities, but not a lot of them are providing any sort of give back to our parks or lights or anything that could go to our library. And if they're going to build here, then maybe they should provide something to leave their mark, because they're taking up quite a bit of space, and they should give a little bit more back and sort of leave a little thank you in the way of lights or park renovation or something like that, like so many other towns in the surrounding Bergen County area do.
That was That was one of the discussions, like when you go to other towns, you see a scoreboard and you see it, donated by this bank, or you have but, that came up a while ago, and one of the pushback that I received was, well, we're selling out, now we're selling out, we're gonna name, but we're not renaming a park, we're putting, on a field or something, so there's.
I feel like we're selling ourselves out anyway. I feel like Hackensack's sort of being treated like a.
Well, I mean, I think we could get money in to do fields and things like that, but again, this came up a while ago, and not you, but, some people felt like, well, why are we giving, why are we gonna put a name on a field or something? But I feel like we should be able to do that. If we can get a scoreboard out of, a building or a bank or, attorney or whatever it is, we should do that. And as far as the women's sports and girls' sports, I 100% agree. I just, brought my daughter to Montvale for tennis lessons, and then we went, to another town for field hockey. So, I agree, we're not offering those things here, and even if it's not in-house, we can partner with like the TGA, the Tennis Association, or the Golf Association, to have those programs come in and do that, and that was just never, explored before. So I'm hoping those are things that are done for, girls' sports, because we're not offering enough for them.
I'm going to allow for one more. I see I have one more speaker. I'm going to allow for one more. Thank you, Ms. King. And then we're going to go right into our second meeting. We're running very late. Thank you.
Good evening, Bridget Rucker,
Ma'am?
Hackensack resident. I'm just here to speak about the DPW trucks. I believe I called the city manager's office. I've sent videos. One of their trucks is really in need of repair. It leaks all over our street. It leaves the residue of the garbage through the streets. The smells during the summertime, are not welcoming. We who live on the street have to go out in the street, put detergent or some kind of thing to wash the street. So, and I have spoken to the gentleman, Mike, supervisor of DPW. He's been very kind, but by sending the street sweeper down the street. The other thing is we get street sweeping every other week, but you want us to move our cars, on the days of street sweeping. So that becomes the other thing. And the last thing that I want to say is about the noise ordinance. Please make it where the noise, people are getting letters, whether, English and in Spanish, because the noise in the area is deafening. We have called the police on numerous occasions because the music is like 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. People want to party. I love a party, trust me. But when it's time to go to bed, it's time to go to bed. And people continuously turn their speakers up on bass, and the music is deafening. So as those planes go over Prospect, we have the noise. So we need to make it so people understand the quality of life, and that everyone needs to be respectful of their neighbors.
Thank you, Ms. Rucker. We'll definitely look into that. You didn't by chance, are DPW is aware of which truck it is?
Yeah.
So could you look into that tomorrow, see what's leaking and why it's leaking and why it hasn't been repaired?
A while back, and I believe it was addressed, but I'll follow up.
Okay, thank you. All right. I need a motion to close the cow session?
Okay, we just have one that was emailed in, so I'll read
Okay.
that real fast. It is from Lucille Desperado. I currently reside at the Beechwood condo. Although it is a lovely home, parking can be extremely difficult. The building has 75 units and there is only enough parking for 65 cars. Imagine having a couple who drives 2 cars. Parking for the second car is already hard enough with Hackensack's street cleaning schedule. To place a 2-hour restriction around Prospect Avenue area is very frustrating and upsetting. If you are planning to do this, at least please give residents and/or owners of the condos a residential sticker so we may be able to park. Or please find a way for our building to have enough parking for at least 1 spot per unit. That's it.
Thank you. All right, motion to close the cow session, please?
You need a motion to close the public.
Motion to close the public, sorry.
Offer.
Second. All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Motion to close the council of the whole?
Offer.
Do you need a motion for the executive session also?
No, we did that already.
We did that, okay.
Offer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Take a recess, please. going to take a 2-minute recess, and we're going to start the second meeting. Thank you.